Okay. Welcome to College and Career Readiness night. We had a hiccup last week with the reminder email having the wrong time on it, so apologize for that. But we got to go in this week, and we're going to actually have a double night tonight. So we're going to do College and Career Readiness, take a brief break, and then we'll be doing College Money Night right after that. And we record as always, so anybody who misses can come back and check on it. Okay. So, this is kind of what families need to know. So, we will go ahead here. So first of all, just you have a huge support team, and I'm just one aspect of that. So I'm the college and career counselor, Melissa Howerton. I included a little picture of my little man there. Um, so ways that we help with with your college and career readiness. First of all, we attempt to have a course selection meeting with every new student coming in, and at the beginning of every new year we make sure that we've got that. So we have a course selection meeting either at the end of the year that students are already there, or when they're brand new students at the beginning of the following year. We make sure we do that. We check credits to see where students are at that time. We also make sure that the students are getting into the classes that they need. We try to do recovery when possible to make sure that students are getting exactly what they need to be on track or get back on track to graduate on time. We have an academic achievement class for all grades. So there's a ninth grade academic achievement, a 10th grade, an 11th grade, and a 12th grade academic achievement. And in that class, we work on all things focused on career and college guidance. Now, largely that is working on ICAP, which we'll get into more in detail later. And we use School Links to complete that. But the School Links has more than just the required tasks. Students can look into all sorts of aspects far beyond the minimum requirements for the class. We have multiple concurrent options. So concurrent is any sort of training or education that goes alongside your typical high school. So we have students who are taking concurrent college classes, so they get dual credit. Those students are getting credit for both college and high school at the same time. We have AP course options. Those are advanced placement options for students who are have a strong have a strength in a particular field. It elevates their GPA and also gives them a chance at the end of the class to take an exam, which could earn them college credit as well. We have career tech, so students are able to attend a career tech school like Tulsa Tech or Metro Tech, or Francis Tuttle, where they're able to take these career specific courses the same time as they're doing their high school classes. So in addition to those concurrent options, we also have internships and job shadowing. So starting with sophomore year, we offer opportunity for students. We try to find them opportunities to do job shadowing in a field they have an interest in. And like, for example, we had some students last year who did engineer for a day. They got a chance to go spend the day with a Boeing engineer. And for some students, that means that it reinforces that love of that field, and that lets them have a more specific plan for it. But even when a student realizes, no, this is definitely not what I want to do, that's still a really valid experience that they can get from that. We also have internships that are available for juniors and seniors. We're in the infancy of that program, so it's getting it off the ground slowly. It means it's a lot of trying to find locations to get students into those internship roles. We have a virtual college fair. A virtual college fair is actually a 3-day event. That's as soon as we get back from fall break. We already have more colleges signed up than we did last year to come and do presentations online for the students to be able to find information about that college. They can ask questions if they have questions about it as well. And that same week, we'll also have career techs come and do presentations, as well as military doing presentations also, so that we can show all those different post-secondary paths that they might take. We also do college campus tours. So the invitation has gone out to went out to seniors first. Then we've now invited juniors. Sophomores will be next on the list to get invited to sign up for colleges they're interested in seeing in person. That gives the students the opportunity to actually visit the campus. As soon as I have a group large enough to go, we immediately start making the plans for the trip. And then if we exceed my car load worth, then I'll add another person and start adding into that car too. So that we can take any students that are interested in going and seeing those. Last year we went to OU, OSU, UCO, OKCU, um, and I took an individual student to TU. So we will make sure that we get those students out there and seeing those campuses in person. Oh, I'm sorry, in RSU. I also took a student to RSU. Okay, so in addition to that, we also have a virtual career fair. That's in the spring that we have that. So we have we will have lots of different professionals coming and giving presentations on that. If parents have a field that they would like to represent, or if you know somebody, especially STEM, since we have a lot of STEM and especially computer field, if you know people in those fields, would love to hear from them so that we can have them come and speak about their position and what their education path was to get there. So these are all ways that we support the student in college and career at DDA. So I mentioned ICAP. So if you're not familiar with ICAP stands for Individual Career Academic Plan. This is the way in which we work on students learning what fields they might be interested in and what each of those fields take, and then the different paths that they can go on. So ICAP is a program that's required by the state. They instilled it. It's now getting to, I believe, this next year. Seniors are ones that should have been in it for all 4 years. So they each year they have tasks they have to complete. We track that in SchoolLinks, and then we then send that on to provide that to the state as one of their graduation requirements. One of the first things that we do with ICAP is we check out what they're interested in. So logging into SchoolLinks at the beginning of the year, the first thing I have to do is a career interest survey. So it's asking them simple questions, just interests, which they agree or disagree with. Like, you show up early to events, agree or disagree. And you would prefer to sit at home and read a book than go to a party, agree or disagree. And then based on those answers, it provides them with 3 different career clusters that they might have an interest in. And they can select one of those career clusters, or they can look for something completely different that they actually have an interest in that didn't come up based on that, and then go from there. As I mentioned before, we look into job shadowing opportunities for students based on having those fields that they're interested in. And we have career fairs for them to hear about some different jobs. These are all helping them find the field that interests them. From there, we make a plan. We look at what are the education needs for what they want to do. If somebody wants to be a veterinarian, then it's like, okay, well, we need to prepare for lots of school, because after high school, you're going to need to get a bachelor's degree. And then after a bachelor's degree, you're going to have to get a master's degree. And depending on what level of veterinarian, whether you want to be a vet tech or you want to be a full-blown, veterinary medicine, you may need to have a PhD after that as well. So, and then look at alternate plans for things. I have a student that was interested in law enforcement, and we talked about the differences they could do. Like, they're taking career tech law enforcement officer. They'll have a certificate at the end of this year when they graduate. And that could be enough to get them in the door somewhere. But what they want to do, they're wanting a bachelor's degree. So we looked into the different programs that have the different options for what they wanted to, and found the school that matches what they want so that they can go get that bachelor's degree. Because for law enforcement, it could be a career tech certificate that they earn while they're in high school, or one they earn immediately after high school. It could be that they use that as a stepping stone to then go into getting law enforcement certification for an associate's or a 2-year degree, or it could mean they go for a bachelor's degree, especially if they want to specialize, like crime scene investigation, or forensic science. Like one of my students last year graduated, she's going into forensic science. So We figure out what education they need depending on what they want to do specifically. We look for concurrent alternatives. So, do they want to do career tech? Is that something that's available there? Do they want to do college classes at the same time so they can start getting those courses in towards the degree that they want? We look at high school courses that match. So, if they're interested in a particular field, that we have a class that would be supportive of. I had a student last year who was interested. She's actually now attending OU for entrepreneurship. She wanted to get an idea of what that was like, so she took an intro to business class. So we look at the classes that are going to match what they want as well. And then we adjust as needed. Every year we take that career interest survey again and see maybe there's something that they want to change. Maybe they want to change paths. Maybe they do a job shadowing and they decide that's not what I want to do. So we change it as we go. So once we have this plan and we're building up for this, we want the best possible outcome so that we have all the options available to them. The very first, the beginning of that foundation is that transcript. So this is where GPA is the number one thing. Colleges have gone test optional. So the GPA is the determination for getting into colleges. Like the level of the GPA determines, like the higher the GPA, the more options that they have. So we want to make sure that we give them as many opportunities as possible. So we want to constantly re-raising that GPA, which is why concurrent and AP, having weighted GPAs for those classes, help raise those GPAs up. We do want to look at testing scores. Even though they could apply test optional, having a high testing score does help with that application. And it is the means for getting scholarships. Many scholarships will be based on accepting based on the test score that they earn. And when we talk about those tests, we're talking about the ACT or the SAT, but also we're talking about AP exams. If a student takes an AP class and then they don't see an AP exam score on there, they wonder why the student didn't take the exam. But when they do, and they see that exam's on there, they see that the student is willing to go all the way with that course. Also, the minimum versus the maximum. Did they take exactly what they needed to graduate and nothing more? Or is it clear that they took some classes because they wanted to figure out what they wanted to do? Did they take more challenging classes? Are there more difficult classes on there than just the very basics there? Which brings me to the rigorous coursework. Are there AP courses? Are there AP exams? Are there dual credits from colleges? Is there content specialization, which makes it clear, like if they're applying to a school because they want to go into engineering, did they take an engineering elective in high school that shows that they were preparing themselves for the coursework that was coming in college? This all helps in those application process. Also, experience programs. If a student doesn't have a large number of courses, but they show that they were doing career tech at the same time, colleges understand that that is carrying a load of work, that it means that they have to apply themselves more and balance out their time. Also including job shadowing and internships. It shows that they pursued outside of just the typical class. They were working on getting real world hands-on experience for this as well. And involvement's also another one. Colleges want to see that students have ability to balance and that they are a rounded student. Having an amazing GPA, but having done absolutely nothing else but school is not necessarily going to be the best thing to see when they're applying. Colleges application process is now holistic, meaning they look at all the aspects of the student. So seeing a student with an amazing GPA, but nothing else on their application is not going to be nearly as impressive than a student who has a decent GPA, but also has extracurriculars or has done community service. Those things are all very important as well. It's also really great when we see in addition, like I said, the extracurriculars, but also leadership in those. Students in their freshman and sophomore years who join a club and they stick with that club from year to year. It's great to see they start taking on a role. Do they become a team captain for a competitive extracurricular? Do they become a president of an organization or a club? That starts to kind of show that they're willing to take on leadership roles. Even a student who volunteers time to do tutoring as their community service, that's also leadership. A lot of times students don't realize that they have leadership they can put on those academic resumes that they don't realize are leadership. It's them taking the lead. It's them being a model for others. And those all add to those leadership roles as well. So building the academic resume is important, and one of those aspects is the testing landscape. So as I mentioned, this is in the test optional era. During COVID, colleges realized that when they weren't requiring tests because it was difficult to get standard tests and during COVID, they learned that they could really judge students pretty well without it being just based on a test score, or largely based on a test score that it was pre-COVID. And so now many colleges just never went back. They just continued to remain as tests are optional. You can include them or not include them. But, and that's why that but is in bold there, but scores still help with many other things. Okay. So one, merit-based scholarships, which are the bulk of scholarships, have some sort of merit-based requirement to them. Even if it's not a high GPA, a minimum GPA, along with other things. Even if it's a leadership scholarship, they may still have a minimum GPA that they want to see, and a minimum test score that they want to see. So those merit-based scholarships and the really big scholarships are often higher scores that they're looking for those. So we want to get those higher scores for those scholarships. There's also helps with course placement. The colleges determine what if the student needs any sort of pre-courses based on those scores. So for example, if you score below a 20 on the English section of the ACT, you won't be able to take Composition 1 right away. You will have to take a remedial English class before you take that. Now, they have their own placement test, so if they get that score and they see that you've scored very low in that section, then they will give you a placement test to determine where you're going to go. But if you haven't really focused on getting that score up over the years, then the placement test will probably be similar results to that ACT, which is why we have those enrichment classes to help students better prepare for those tests. And so, for example, my younger sister, and she gave me permission to use her as an example, she scored a 12 on the math section. Math was just never her thing. She struggled all through school with math. And so she didn't score very well on the ACT. And then when she got to college, they gave her a placement test, and it ended up she had to take 2 math classes before she could take college algebra to go on to do all the other math classes that she needed. So that's why we still place an emphasis on those tests, because that can make a difference there. It also makes a difference in the competitive programs. There are certain test scores that are required in certain levels to get into some of those. Like right now, one of the big hiring areas are anything to do in the field of aviation. So they are very short on qualified pilots. They are very short on control towers, those who do the control tower works. And so those programs at like OU and OSU for aviation, they are in need of people massively, and but the competition to get into those is huge. So the application just for those aviation programs is well in advance, and they have a minimum test score that is required in certain sections to get that. Now I've noted here super scoring. So this is something to when I send things home to parents and say, yes, in your junior year, the state provides the ACT for all of those students as their state test. But I'm always encouraging students to take that more times than just that one time. And the part of the reason for that is super scoring. So super scoring is when if you took the ACT the first time and you got, say, a 19 in English and a 15 in math and a 18 in reading and a 12 in science, and then the next time you took it, you got like a 22 and then the 17 and the 16 and the 14. You're going to go across the board and you're going to take the highest number in each one of those. Out of those 2 times that you've taken it, the higher of the English scores is going to be that English score. The higher of the reading scores is going to be the reading score. And then they just do the composite as the average of those highest 4 sections. And so the more times you take it, the more we can work on getting those high sections that were lower up higher and getting a better super score. So all of those kind of come together in benefits that we can see from doing multiple ACT tests and for getting really, really prepared for those ACT tests. Okay, so different types of colleges, right? So whenever you're trying to decide what kind of college, then you've got to kind of understand the differences there are. So there are 2-year schools and there are 4-year schools. 2-year schools generally called community colleges, or we just use college, which we generically say for both, or 4-year schools, which are universities, or but sometimes still just called college. The 2-year schools provide an associate's degree, or a certificate, depending on what the program is. The universities provide a 4-year, or what we call a bachelor's degree. And depending on what field the student wants to go into is which one that they would need to go for. But for almost any associate's degree you can get, there is probably a 4-year degree equivalent that it would then place you at a higher ability, or possibly more money to start out with. So those, we take a look at which way we need to go with that. There's also the choice between public versus private schools. For anybody who's looking at getting Oklahoma Promise, that's going to be able to cover both public and private schools. FAFSA covers both public and private schools, but state schools typically cost less, especially if you're in state. If you're a resident, you're not paying out of state tuition. Private schools tend to cost more, but private schools often have more aid options than public schools do. And there are also like concurrent enrollment. In Oklahoma, you can take a certain number of concurrent enrollment classes at public universities, but they don't cover that for private universities. There's also, you may have heard Ivy League and not known exactly what that means, other than like it sounds like it's fancy, right? So Ivy League schools they could they are the 8 private universities that are generally in the northeast of America. It was from an article that was written many over 100 years ago about those schools, where they talked about the schools where the ivy grows. And they're officially called the Ivy League Athletic Conference. But those 8 schools are the ones we're talking about when we talk about Ivy Leagues. But there are also elite universities that aren't technically Ivy League, but they're generally classified in that same category as those. These schools are highly competitive to get into. It means that we're really, really needing to work on that academic resume starting like freshman year to really build it to get a student ready for that. Additionally, I've got for you guys here to see, here's the Ivy League schools. So if you didn't know what they were, it includes Brown, Columbia, Cornell, Harvard, Princeton, the University of Pennsylvania, or UPenn, Yale, and Dartmouth. So those are the Ivy League schools. But there are also those other very prestigious schools. So inclusive of them, like University of Chicago, Rice, Berkeley, Caltech, John Hopkins, all of MIT. These are all also Stanford and Duke. These are all also very prestigious schools. They're also highly competitive, but very elite when you able to graduate from them. Okay, so timeline. What are we looking at? In the 9th grade, it's building a foundation. This is really wanting to explore electives and clubs and activities and trying to find what they are really looking for their path. We begin ICAP and we do those first ICAP tasks. This is when we really want to establish that those grades matter. Unlike before, where it was just making sure that they're passing, the GPA is forever. A bad grade that is gotten in the 9th grade will sometimes come back to haunt them. And I've had many seniors tell me, if it weren't for my 9th grade year, my GPA would be great. So this is also when we definitely suggest taking the pre-ACT. We also say that's a great time to start community service record. Although at virtual, like there may not be as many in-person options, we still definitely encourage it, and I try to post any opportunities we have for those. For 10th grade, we're getting into that exploring. So we want to do more career interest exploring, looking into job shadowing, researching those different careers that they have an interest in. We want to continue the extracurriculars, but maybe even start to find leadership roles, making sure they're going to those college and career fairs, making sure they're keeping on that GPA and maybe looking at some more challenging courses like AP courses. Again, 10th grade, we really try to take that pre-ACT, get ready for those tests to get those scores ready. In 11th grade, then we're really getting into it. So that's when we're looking at career interests in job shadowing and career tech, and internships. We're going to look at taking the PSAT, which provides them with a scholarship opportunity that Oklahoma specifically provides. Continuing those college and career fairs, but also really pushing for getting those college campus visits in. And then they take their ACT and their state tests in April. And then of course the seniors, that's the big year. So August and September, we're getting into making sure the credits are ready, that they're on track. We make sure that they start working on their college essay. In September and October, we do their CPR training. We retake the ACT if those scores are low, and we're looking to get that going. And then FAFSA, the big thing, opens October 1st. We want to look for letters of recommendation. We're going to be doing early applications. We're going to look into scholarship applications and finishing up those Oklahoma Promise applications. November and December, we're looking at the remaining scholarship applications. We're going to fit those final deadlines for the schools and for the financials submitted to Oklahoma Promise to finalize getting confirmed for that. Working on those community scholarships, and then making any corrections for FAFSA. January and February is the very, very final bit. The last of the college application deadlines generally come in during that time. We do a final credit audit after that first semester is over. We look for those award letters to come in so we know how much money they're getting from FAFSA and state awards. March and April, then we pick the colleges. We have our robing ceremonies. We start confirming housing deposits and then signing up for orientation with their college and any other steps they need to complete depending on what school they're going to and what programs they're getting into. And then May is when we wrap it up. Final college scholarship application or awards complete. And then they get their final transcripts and then they sign up for the alumni organization, which if you don't know, helps students. We don't say just we're pre-K through 12, we're pre-K through 16. All 4 years of college, they can be part of the Dove alumni and get support beyond. Okay, so paying for college, there's FAFSA and federal aid. We're going to talk about that later when we go into the next session. We're going to do, their scholarship. There's either merit-based, need-based. There's local and national opportunities, and we share that information with them. SchoolLinks has a great system for that. Oklahoma Promise for that state tuition assistance. So that's another big one in paying for school. So we also look into the career paths beyond that. So we talked about for those that college application week that we have when we come back from fall break, that's going to have all of those options that we're going to have there for them to learn about. Okay, so remember we got College Money Night coming up here in just a few minutes. We have FAFSA workshops coming up later on, and then students can also sign up for individual time. All right. Anybody have any questions about any of the information we've gone through for the academics? Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to take a quick break, grab a sip to drink to refresh my throat before we move on, and then we'll do the College Money Night immediately next. Thank you.